Hughie from The Boys might be one of the most wasted potential characters I've ever seen. From the very beginning of the show, the most important dynamic in The Boys has been Hughie and Butcher. It's a dynamic that everyone loved. The classic skinny nerd who's too scared to stand up for himself, and the mentor who has absolutely no filter or hesitation in killing people. We've seen the dynamic all the time, and characters like Hughie are perfect because they have so much room to develop. The people we look forward to the most in fiction are the ones that are the physically weakest in the beginning because we know how they're going to change. It's a classic trope in many different TV shows like Fitz in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Glenn in The Walking Dead, and Spencer Reed in Criminal Minds. When we're introduced to Hughie Campbell, he's nothing more than a scrawny guy working at an electronics store who was too scared to even stand up to his own boss.
Hey, Gary. I really need to talk to you about
Later,
something.
kid.
Okay, cool.
Literally the only thing he had going for him was the fact that he had a girlfriend. He was silly, innocent, wholesome, had absolutely no blood on his ledger. He was the perfect character to turn into an absolute badass by the end of the show. Instead of that though, we got the absolute hellstorm of writing in season 4. Hughie has constantly been sidelined, victimized, and treated like a joke, destroying his entire arc in the process. There's a few central make or break moments in a character's lifespan that'll determine how he will develop in a show. The very first one happens when the character goes through a traumatic experience, normally at the beginning of the story. The Boys wastes absolutely no time showing this trauma for Hughie, killing off his girlfriend in literally the first scene that she's in. The second moment generally happens when the character has to make a choice at the very beginning. It's essentially the Matrix's red pill / blue pill decision displayed in its own way. There's always a rising conflict, and the weak main character has to decide whether to live the rest of his life as a loser doing nothing, or fighting the mega corporation that's unfairly ruined his life in a search for some classic underdog justice. For Hughie, this decision happened when he willingly joined Butcher in his quest to stop Vought. The third moment happens when we witness the weak character's inner monster come out. We see the character's real potential, the character that has every bit of adrenaline pumping through his blood, the character that has nothing but rage on his face and what he can actually do with the power he holds in his hand. For Hughie, this was the moment he killed Translucent, and that was the moment that the show decided that Hughie would be one of the greatest protagonists in fiction. The moment Hughie pushed that big red button, the writers were screaming at the audience, telling us that this character was inevitably going to turn into the biggest badass ever, and he would burn everything to the ground if he had to. Hughie has many moments throughout the show that subtly show who he really is deep down, because clicking that button, killing those people, while it can be taught, it's always been inside of him. He's always had that rage, he's just been too scared to show it. His visions at the start of the show do a great job of telling that he's one step away from becoming someone like Billy Butcher. His own sense of fear, justice, and morality are the only things holding him back. So after these few integral moments at the start of Hughie's arc, he begins to turn into an amazing character. He begins killing the bad guys, proving the stronger characters in the verse wrong, and most importantly, standing up to the scariest people in the verse. Some of his most shining moments happen in season 3, when Hughie stands up to Homelander and even Soldier Boy. Sure, he gets slapped up by Soldier Boy, but the fact that he's gained the confidence to do it in the first place shows how he's developed from the first episode. The same episode where he was too scared to talk to his own boss. Most importantly, his greatest character development happens around A-Train's subplot, how A-Train kills his girlfriend, how Hughie hates him and wants to stop him at any cost, how he punches him, how he eventually learns to forgive him, and even works with him in season 4. And after all of this character development, they bring in Temp V and give Hughie powers, making him one of the strongest characters in the verse. All of these scenes are important in Hughie becoming who he is, and this character development continues into season 4. We see an antagonizing subplot with Hughie about to lose his father. What's going to happen? Is he going to go on a rampage, fight with every bone in his body? Is he going to take Compound V and get his powers back? No, literally the episode after his father dies, he's actually going to go into a sex dungeon where, well, you know what happens. Have you ever wondered why so many people say that Hughie is underrated in his own verse? Because they're not just saying that. There's an integral reason why Hughie isn't taken seriously. It's because the writers don't know how to write him if they're not actively making him a joke. So the writers decide to ruin 4 seasons of development for what? The entire subplot after Hughie loses his dad blows my mind. It's actually insane how poorly it's handled. What shocks me even more is that no one talks about the fact that the literal main protagonist of the show was assaulted 3 episodes back to back, and there was virtually no conversation about it. Oh wait, there was actually one conversation about it with his girlfriend after the fact, when she yelled at him and told him he has to get STD tested after he was assaulted over 20 times by a shapeshifter that looked just like her.
You are getting tested for every single disease known to mankind, okay?
Fuck yeah, Hughie. Fuck yeah.
It's actually mind-boggling how deep they threw Hughie's character into the trenches and turned his trauma into some kind of joke for some corner of the fanbase that actually thinks what happened to him was funny. Logically, there's absolutely no reason for any of these scenes to happen in the first place. If you really think about it, Hughie doesn't need more trauma anyways. He's already been through enough. He watched his girlfriend get murdered in front of him. He was betrayed by his boss who turned out to be a soup that can blow people's heads off. His mom left him as a child and then came back. He had to kill tons of people. He even lost his dad at the middle point of season 4. All of these events are perfect to build Hughie's character and mold him over time into some amazing protagonist who goes from weak to strong. The random Tech Knight cave subplot and Starlight morphling scenes did virtually nothing for his character. All they did was make him feel worse than he already did, and all of this happened literally right after his own father died in front of him. It feels like Hughie went through all of this forced trauma just for the writers to have a reason to build him up to have powers or be much stronger in season 5, but we've already seen this happen. We don't need one of the main protagonists to go through the same arc twice in a row. There's absolutely zero point. And you can argue that the boys had these scenes for a reason. That reason being they're constantly trying to push the boundaries with what's too gross for modern television. But this isn't gore or nudity or even any crazy language. This is just an inappropriate and unfunny type of assault that doesn't even need to be portrayed in the way that it was. SA should not be a recurring integral plot device in the main character's developments. It's so unnecessary. And it's not like they're showing these experiences as a way of informing audiences or educating them either. If anything, these scenes actually take away from how traumatic these experiences can be, trying to make it funny and unserious. After how Hughie was treated by his girlfriend, it would be so much harder for me to talk about my own experiences as a man. At the core, The Boys has massively failed Hughie and their audience in this way, because from the very beginning, the protagonistic couple has been Hughie and Starlight, and now she will never be worthy of him again. As of that conversation he had with Starlight at the end of season 4, their relationship is completely dead to the majority of the fandom. The boys successfully destroyed one of their biggest canon couples over writing these few scenes. What's even more insane is how they treated Starlight's character in response to what Hughie is going through. Considering what Starlight dealt with in literally the first episode of the show, she should have been written to easily be the most understanding person in that situation. Hughie's problems go way beyond these few scenes in season 4 though. It's honestly hard to take him seriously after his shining moments in season 3. He's sidelined in a storyline that should have been his from the very beginning. Every single character in The Boys has a certain set of skills. Butcher is a leader. He's strong, aggressive, and knows what he needs to do to win. is trained in combat, smart, and he knows how to survive in the battlefield. Frenchie is the group's scientist. He can make literally anything that needs to be made. Weapons, armor, bullets, he's got it. Starlight is, well, of course, a soup, instantly making her one of the strongest characters in the team. And Kimiko, well, she's literally unkillable, and that makes her an incredible asset. Hughie has pretty much nothing going for him. That's why he was forced into the web weaver costume in the first place. 4 seasons later, just as he was getting stronger and had temp V powers, they backtrack on his entire character development. Hughie serves virtually zero purpose in the entire show now. What's even the point of having him? And of course, you can argue that he's the moral compass of the team, that he's the one that keeps everyone grounded, but it's counterintuitive to have a character be morally just and then give him enough trauma to have him not be moral anymore. Either have him as a lighthearted character or don't. You can't have it both ways. There's certain scenes where he's able to kill one of the bad guys chasing him, and while that's cool, it doesn't really do anything anymore. Hughie killed Translucent in the 2nd episode of the show, and we've already known he's capable of killing people. At the end of the day, it's possible that Hughie is well used in season 5, but as of season 4, he's one of the most wasted protagonists I've ever seen in a fictional TV show. It's really unfortunate because it feels like a lot of the scenes at the very beginning were central to him in the show. It felt like him and the show were one, like he was going to be built up to be so much more than he was. But instead, Hughie serves barely any purpose besides giving a speech at the end of season 4, which ends up not mattering because most of the boys get abducted or stopped anyways. Hopefully, season 5 can finally do him justice and bring a close to his mixed up arc.